Thank you for tuning in for this edition of Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali. I am Attorney Zulu Ali with the Justice Watch crew, Rosa Nunez, Michael Bilal Clark, Dr. Kil Bashir, Andrea Rodeman, and Ryan Rhodes. This week, like every week, we'll be discussing critical legal and social justice issues that are impacting our communities. This week, we're going to be talking about the trade wars. Trump's tariff wars, I guess I would say, right? We got a special guest right now, a very, 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 very special guest, and it's who also happens to be one of my fraternity brothers.
That's right.
And we have brother Walter Fields with us. He's a founder of the Black Parents Workshop, which is a not-for-profit parents advocacy organization based in New Jersey, championed a landmark federal civil rights lawsuit on behalf of Black students in the local school district. He previously served as director of the public affairs for the New York Trial Lawyers Association and vice president for government relations. In the Community Service Society in New York City. Upon his relocation to Maryland, he has assumed the role of co-chairperson of the Advisory Council, Strong Schools Maryland, a statewide education equity advocacy organization. In addition, he serves on the board of Child First Authority, an organization that sponsors in-school and out-of-school programming at 12 Baltimore City community schools. And in the past, Brother Fields was a member of the Prince George's County Board of Education, appointed by County Executive Angela Osbrooks, and also served as the chair of the Policy and Governance Committee. He served for many years on the board of the New Jersey State Conference of the NAACP and was the organization's political director. His background also includes work as an award-winning journalist and experience in every medium of journalism, daily press, magazines, radio, television, and internet news. He was hired by NBC News as an original political contributor to the MSNBC cable news channel and for the MSNBC.com contributor to the National Public Radio news anchor on WRKS, KISS FM in New York City, contributing editor to New Jersey Reporter magazine and publisher of City Limits magazine in New York City. Brother Fields has also been a strong advocate for diversity in media and accountability in reporting, and also has been an adjunct professor in political science at Montclair State University and a visiting lecturer in public policy at Meiji Gakuin University in Tokyo, Japan. Brother Fields has consulted in projects in Japan, the UK, South Africa, Botswana, and Swaziland. Not to mention that he is a doctorate candidate at Morgan State University, his alma mater. He got a master's degree at NYU, and he also is a graduate of Morgan State University, where he earned his bachelor's degree in political science, and he also serves as our media person for the Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated, man. So, brother, and it's a pleasure having you with us. Also, just is that number that I sent you? Could you call that number that's on your phone? Because we'll have your audio coming in through the phone. Is that okay?
Yeah, let me just track it down. Okay.
Did you get a call from him? Did you get the number, brother?
I got the number. I'm calling right now.
See if I can text him. Yeah, the 909-383-1000. Is that right, Joe? Oh, he's calling you, though. All right. I appreciate you joining us, brother.
Hey, good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah, man, it's an honor and a pleasure, and man, I'm so happy that you're here, man, and with these accolades, and I've been wanting to get you on here, man. I said I got to get Brother Fields on here, man.
Well, look, man, with that introduction, I can't say anything stupid. I gotta act like I know.
Like I know.
Yeah, man. So, and I know you, man. You keep up with everything going on, man. So we just been going off on our president a little bit about some of the issues we had talked earlier about the tariffs and how that obviously has been a disaster and clearly they're going to put us in some sort of economic problem. I mean, I think that we haven't seen the end of that, but I kind of want to get your input on that.
Well, look, man, we've got scam cracker, as I call him, scam cracker, as our president, and I think what we're witnessing is a very purposeful implosion of our nation's economy. I think that this is a plan to consolidate wealth and power in the hands of a new oligarchy. I think we are witnessing a manufactured crisis with these tariffs. And look, here's the thing. Donald Trump has always believed in tariffs, and Donald Trump has always been wrong. And unfortunately, for many people who don't understand how tariffs work, they were led to believe that somehow or another these countries would be paying the United States these exorbitant fees for the import of products, when actually that cost is going to be passed down to the consumer. And so what you're seeing now is sort of this latent reaction by people, even his supporters, who are now feeling the pinch of this manufactured crisis. And the thing that Donald Trump doesn't realize is that the economy, the old world economy, will never come back. You are not going to import these jobs back into the U.S. because, quite frankly, Americans aren't working for what eventually are slave wages. If you look at what it costs to produce an iPhone overseas and how much people are paid, man, Americans aren't going to, settle for that. And so this idea that somehow or another we're going to restore these manufacturing jobs in the United States and we're going to have this insular economy, that era has long gone. When we started exporting jobs and the supply chain overseas, we were never going to get that back. And so what Trump is doing is playing with people's emotions because it sounds good, right? Make America great again. It sounds good. But the America he's talking about is the America of 1920, which, by the way, led to depression.
Right.
And so, I think people just better be aware that we are witnessing one of the biggest scams in our nation's history, that this guy got elected on a bunch of lies, which he knew were lies, and he has willing partners in Congress who are going along with this. And we better be careful because, if you look at how he set this up, the first thing you do is you discredit the media. And so people become more distrustful of journalists. Then you attack the legal profession because, God forbid, you have anybody that wants to file a legal claim on any of these issues. And you also attack judges. So you're attacking the veracity of our judicial system. And then the other thing you do is you manipulate data to make it appear as those things are worse than they are. He kept talking about the bad Biden economy. The economy was pretty damn strong under Joe Biden.
Right.
But he gave the impression that, the house was burning down. And so you do that. And then the last bit that you do is you attack the federal bureaucracy. You attack the regulatory state. So now you don't have anybody watching the house. So now you can steal freely. So when we look up, we're going to find that the reason why Elon Musk has been so involved in all of this isn't because he's some sort of government efficiency expert. They're setting this up so Elon Musk can be awarded government contracts. And I'm quite sure there's some kickbacks along with that, right? And so we better be clear that we are seeing this man set up an authoritarian state in the United States, that we have never, ever been this close to an authoritarian state. This guy has no regard for the Constitution. It doesn't exist. Like, as far as he's concerned, the law is whatever he says it is on Monday. And that could change on Tuesday. And it could change on Wednesday. And so he has set this up to the point that he may do so much damage, it may take us decades to get out from underneath this. Because all those government workers who were fired, and what this is what people don't understand about sort of the federal bureaucracy, those are experts. Those are people who have dedicated their lives to build expertise around these areas. You know, brother, I mean, the Department of Justice. You know, people look at the Department of Justice. Those are career attorneys. Those are the people who really understand the law in the United States. Those people are gone.
Yeah.
And so what happens when we get to the point that this manufactured crisis leads to dissension in the streets and you have a president that declares martial law?
Wow.
And I honestly believe that's where this could head.
Yeah.
That we have to be real careful. And look, the immigration stuff is on top of that, right? Because today it's immigrant, tomorrow could be U.S. citizens that he wants to get out of this country, who are strong advocates against him. There's nothing that says that he can't manufacture something, trumped up charges against people who are activists. We've lived through this in the 1960s, man, with COINTELPRO.
Right.
Only this is worse.
Right. Yeah. It is, man. That's wow. That's unbelievable. I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier, is that, you know, it seems so obvious, you know, with regards to, you know, clearly that agenda, even before he got back into the office, we already seen a glimpse of him. And, you know, what's interesting is that I spent a lot of time, you know, during the campaign, you know, when we were going through and talking about the campaign, suggesting that it's absolutely no way that he would be reelected. In fact, I told him, I said, look, they wouldn't even allow that to happen. I said, even if people like Donald Trump or they kind of felt for him, I said, I think that the powers in government would not even allow it to happen, even if they had to do something, you know, weird, right? And the fact that he got in there and we're just seeing it played out in a way that actually is, you know, in my opinion, worse than I really thought, at least within the first 100 days. It's worse than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I think some of this is shock and awe, right? If you read the Project 2025 playbook, it was all there. And he understood from his first term in office that he had to hit hard and he had to hit fast. So what do? You start issuing all these executive orders on day one. Now, mind you, that many of those executive orders do not hold the weight of law. Right. And so there's a question of whether or not the courts will eventually come back and say you overstepped your bounds as a chief executive. But what he is trying to do, sometimes if you do something enough, you begin to create the narrative that is just and legal. Yeah. So he's trying to create the impression that the president has this authority that he absolutely doesn't have.
Exactly.
Right. And so for him, this bum rush of executive orders was to sort of set the tone that I can do this. I'm president. I'm allowed to do this through executive orders. No president ever has pushed the boundaries of overstepping their power, the constitutional powers, as this guy has.
Right.
And here's the other dilemma. Because we allow our judicial system to be stacked with right-wing judges, we're not sure whether or not the courts will eventually do what they need to do to restrain him.
Right.
We've got a Supreme Court that, you know, on any given day, they might side with this guy on something of relative constitutional importance. And so I'm watching these cases with the immigrants and people he has removed out of the country that he just blanketly labeled criminals, right? With no evidence. You're a criminal, we're going to lock you up, we're going to send you away from the country. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if the Supreme Court holds those up.
Yeah.
Because I believe many people were swept up in those raids that had no criminal backgrounds, but they look brown, and so we're just going to get them out the country.
Absolutely.
And that's the other part of this that Black and brown folks better be clear about. Much of this is contingent upon white fear and resentment about the browning of America.
Right.
The fact that we were coming to the point where Black and brown people were going to be the majority, the fact that we had a declining birth rate among white women And that's why the abortion issue was so important. It wasn't about us. It was about the fact that we need to have some white babies in this country because the numbers are going to be out of sync pretty soon.
Right.
We need to understand that this is really about the protection of white supremacy.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to do everything possible to hold on to power in this country by any means necessary. So if we have to kill public education so Black and brown children can't be educated, we'll do that. We have to wipe out history and remove things from museums and off of websites and historical sites. We're going to do that. This is really about ethnic cleansing, racial and ethnic cleansing, in a way that we have never witnessed in the United States.
Wow. That's interesting when you talk about that. I mean, because when I was, when we were sitting here trying to, and that's really it in a nutshell. I mean, when the demographics of this country is changing, that was really the fear. So much so that they were willing to, sacrifice the country's existence just in order. It's almost like, I mean, that's just how much it means to them. And that's what's shocking, is that even though I think that many of these individuals who supported him knew, if you say, look, there's a possibility that the way in which he's going to run the country could, really basically shut us down, they're willing to take that chance. That's more, because as you said, that white supremacy is more important to them than survival of this country.
Hey, brother, look, what do they say? They're not new to this game, but they're true to this game. And so if you go back, and this is what I tell people all the time about American history, the audacity of folks from another country being given land in another territory and then turning their back on their leader, as those folks did the king, and basically saying, like, F you, we ain't paying taxes no more.
Right.
We over here in the Atlantic. Like, people have to realize how this country started.
Right.
This country didn't start out virtuous.
Right.
That was treason.
Right.
We started with a group of white men who got here, and they were like, man, we ain't never going back to the UK. And screw the king. We're here. We're going to create our own colonies, and we're going to create our states. We're going to declare our independence. Let a group of Black and brown folks in Puerto Rico turn around and tell the United States, we ain't paying taxes no more.
Yeah.
We're our own country. Like, we're now the United States of Puerto Rico.
Right.
Man, they'd wipe Puerto Rico off the map tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And so, when you think back to the Charlottesville incident at UVA with these, white guys carrying torches, what were they were saying? You will not replace us.
Right. Right.
Right. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
And you're right. They will take this country down rather than lose that control.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, and so, when you look at things, we got to be realistic of where we are in this moment in American history, because I fear that so many of us have been sleepwalking, that we don't really understand the danger that we're in.
Right.
That we are at a point where we have very little protection. They started chipping away voting rights about a decade ago, and now Section 5 doesn't exist. So we don't even have the pre-clearance provision anymore. We had to go to the Department of Justice in certain states to prove that your voting plans were not discriminatory. They've killed that. They killed affirmative action.
Right.
Right. This guy comes in, and what's his first order of business? DEI.
DEI, right?
Right. And I keep telling people our DEI should be don't entertain ignorance. Because this stuff is ignorant. But we have to figure out our way out of this, man. And it's going to take a lot of courage. It's going to take a lot of commitment. It's going to take some of us being uncomfortable, because one of the problems we have faced in our own community is that we have had a middle class that got so comfortable it forgot what it went through to get there.
Right.
And so now we find ourselves that many of our children and grandchildren may not have the opportunities we had.
Right.
And people, this is a wake up moment. And look, it's a wake-up moment for poor white folk too.
Right.
Because part of what I keep trying to tell people is that there is white and then there's white, right? A lot of poor white people don't realize that they ain't white.
Exactly.
They just happen to look white,
Right.
but they don't have the power of the white elite.
Right.
And the white elite have never cared about poor white folks. If they did, Kentucky, West Virginia, parts of Tennessee wouldn't look like it does today. And they wouldn't have allowed you to go into those mines and get cancer, like digging out coal. And so this should be a moment of reckoning for poor white people, that just because he looked like you, what do we always say? All skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Right.
So poor white people better listen, because he ain't your kinfolk.
No, that's interesting, man. I mean, and that's, what was always crazy is the Obama. I always tell people about the Obama backlash, that when the anger of, because Obama in many ways created Trump. No disrespect to former President Barack Obama, but that's just how mad those folks were. It was unbelievable, man.
They have not forgiven us for electing Barack Obama.
Right.
And here's the crazy part. I keep telling people, if Barack Obama was not suitable for white America, someone who is of mixed race, right? If he is not suitable, Harvard law grad, if he is not suitable, who is?
Exactly.
Right? They got angry with the brother because he wore a tan suit.
Right, exactly. It's crazy.
And when you think about it, it's so silly, but it shows the depths of racism in this country.
Right.
That if you think back to the attack on Barack Obama, it was he's Muslim, right? He wasn't born in this country.
Right.
Now, everything disproven by actual credentials.
Right.
But still there was this anger that somehow or another we allowed this black guy to become president, that they've never forgotten that.
Right.
And unfortunately, Kamala carried some of that burden in her candidacy, because I'm convinced people were like, nah, we ain't going to do this again. We are not going to have a black face sitting up in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the White House.
Right.
And, I think people need to understand that, this thing called white supremacy is so embedded in all aspects of our nation,
right,
that we may have to come to the realization that we might be able to improve conditions, but we will likely never kill that thing.
No,
because it's too embedded.
Right. Yeah, that's how it was built. I mean, I always use the analogy of, if you have a machine that, manufactured wrenches, and you decide that you want to manufacture screwdrivers, if you use the same machine, you're gonna always get wrenches until you deconstruct and rebuild. And that's kind of where we are. I mean, we just, we're in this situation, unfortunately. And you talked about the issue with the DEI. I mean, that was, as you said, that was immediately the first thing that he went after. Any remnants of diversity, he wanted to kill it. And in a way that was so obvious, I mean, it's just like right there. And as you said, that, there's part of our, in our community, there was this middle class, and that was sleepwalking. They really didn't get it, and still many of them still don't get it.
And the absurdity, like, let's just take the legal profession. I think black attorneys comprise about 4.5% of all lawyers in America. Right?
Yeah.
That's too many black lawyers for them.
Right.
I mean, think about that. 4.5% of all attorneys in the country are black. And that pittance is too many for these folks.
Wow.
Because they want it all.
Exactly.
They believe we should have absolutely nothing. And I always tell people to go back and read the original Constitution that was adopted, right? When you see that we were 3/5 of a person, it was never their intention to recognize us as whole human beings and citizens.
Absolutely.
And there's an anger that we are still here.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you look at history, the great emancipator, Abraham Lincoln, yeah, he signed the, Emancipation Proclamation, but he also said, I would rather just send them back to Africa because I got to deal with this.
Yeah.
Like, forget about war and conflict. Let's just send them back to Africa because I'm tired of these N-words.
Right.
But that's who we are as a nation. And I tell you the greatest thing that's come out of all of this. Other nations now have finally stepped up to the plate, and they're no longer showing us deference.
Right.
Like folks in Canada are like, you know what, y'all? Like if we could saw you off and saw the continent in half and let you drift, we would do that.
Right.
And I saw a great illustration, a cartoon where it said, Canadians woke up on election day after our election and realized that they were living on top of the largest meth lab in the world.
That's crazy.
And so, and this is what Trump doesn't understand. As much as he talks about America first, how do you think people in Canada and China, right, and France and England, they ain't going to bow down to the United States? Those days are over. And the fact that we are no longer the sole nuclear power in the world.
Right.
And so, like, some of our dirt is coming back to haunt us.
Right.
Right. Because after we dropped that bomb in Japan, we just ruled the world.
Right.
But now, because of technology, everybody got their little nuclear bomb.
Right.
And so it's sort of like, oh, y'all want to play this game? Like, we can all end this right now.
Right.
If you think you're going to push up on us. So, brother, I just think we are in a moment of awakening. This might be America's moment of truth.
Right.
Because we have played around for so long with this issue of equality and justice, and America might be getting its just desserts.
Right.
Because it's a different world out there, and ain't nobody running scared of the United States anymore.
No. I mean, that's so true, man. I mean, the game has definitely changed, man. And and it's just like, I think just when we talk about the when he was terminating all those federal employees and seeing how they immediately, and you talked about white folks and the different type of white folks, how they immediately had a different opinion about, you know what I mean? It's amazing how short a time it made them realize how, what his agenda really was. It wasn't never about them.
Oh no, man! Look, Becky lost that job and went home and was like, "Let me take off this red hat."
Right.
Right? All of a sudden the realization hit that he ain't protect me. And it was all right when I thought he was going after everybody else. But now he's taking food off my table.
Right.
Like now I can't pay the mortgage. Now I can't write that tuition check for my child.
Right.
So all of a sudden your attitude becomes different. Yeah. And as much as I try to have empathy for people, for some of these folks, I'm like, you're on your own.
Right.
Right. You're on your own.
Right.
Y'all tried to be slick, and we tried to warn you what was going to happen. In fact, the Democratic candidate pretty much laid it out plainly in her acceptance speech at that convention. She told us everything that was going to happen. And sure enough, it's happening.
Right.
Including this romance with Vladimir Putin. And this is a sore spot for me when you think about how many Black folks went through hell by being called a communist in the 40s and 50s. Right? Ruin people's lives, ruin people's careers.
Absolutely.
And this guy has basically embraced all of that.
Right.
That's why we should be outraged. I mean, we think about the Paul Robesons of the world, like people who were just completely destroyed because they were labeled as communist sympathizers. And we got this guy who adores this guy in Moscow.
Right.
So for me, I think if anything, we need to be clear that we can't accept lies anymore.
Right.
That we just have to call it out for what it is. It's not a time to be silent. It's not a time to be timid. This is a time to be in their faces about all the lies that have been told that have oppressed us for the benefit of a few, and how folks have been manipulated into believing we are the problem when the real problem has been white men in this country who have wanted it all.
Right. So true, bro. I mean, you couldn't say it better than that, man.
Yeah, you got me hot tonight, brother. I'm like, look, I try not to even watch the news no more, because it's like at some point you're like, you know what? I'm tired of the BS.
Yeah. It's crazy, bro. I'm telling you, man. I never thought it would. I never thought I'd see it, man. I really didn't. I mean, you knew it was there, you know. It's like, you know, I know you're cheating on me, but man, you're gonna do it right in front of my face. You know, you're gonna bring them home.
It's like they broke into your home while you were watching TV, and they stole the TV while you were watching it. And then but then they're gonna turn around and say, "Oh, you weren't really watching TV, and that TV never existed." Like they're playing these mind games with us.
It is. Oh, bro, man, I wish it, man. I can't believe it. That went by quick, man. I gotta have you back, bro.
Hey, anytime, man. I saw that message, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come on this.
Man, I definitely appreciate you coming, man. I really, really do, man. Appreciate you being coming, man. Thank you. So thank you for tuning in for this edition of Justice Watch. We'll see you next week, same time, same channel, same place. And until that time, stay blessed.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM, the station that leaves no listener behind.
You're listening to an encore presentation of this program, KCAA, the Inland Talk Express.
Are you ready to embark on a journey towards inner peace, where your real home resides? In a world that never stops, finding peace can feel impossible. Welcome to Inner Peace Radio, your sanctuary for self-discovery and mental clarity. I am your host, Lupe Garcia, and my co-host,
Brenda Cruz. We are sharing teachings based on Course of Miracles in English and Spanish.
Thank you for listening. You can